As an expert or an educator of some kind working online, you are in this for the long haul. You're playing a long-term game here. You're not in this to make a quick buck. You have an expertise, a skill or a passion of some kind, and you want to turn this into your career. That's the goal here. That's what we're in this for. But there's a very specific set of steps that you need to take in order to take the expertise that you might have through either academic study or through your work or through working with people one-to-one, and to take that into a more scalable, leveraged online model where you can start to teach many people at once in groups or cohorts, and then even eventually go on to write a book. There is a very specific way of doing this so that you can actually develop your framework, make sure that it works when it's applied to other people so well that even other coaches can come in and deliver that for you, and then have the ability to turn it into something that can be truly life-changing for people who encounter it. So I'm going to walk you through what that process looks like. In case you don't know me, my name is Olly Richards. I'm the founder of StoryLearning.com. It's a language learning business. I mean, my expertise was in languages. That was my passion, and I developed that into an entire career where I've gone on to build a multi-million-dollar business. I've sold millions of books as a result of doing the things that I'm about to show you right here. So what we're really talking about here is developing your intellectual property. This is your expertise and what you know. But this can't be just something that you've learned from someone else. It has to be something that you have made your own. You have your own unique way of doing things. This is often referred to as a framework of some kind or a unique mechanism. And the framework or the unique mechanism is the set of steps or processes that we use to get results for people. So for example, if we are coaching languages, we have a specific methodology or a specific curriculum that we take people through that we know reliably gets people results. If you're helping people create viral videos on Instagram, for example, you are going to have intellectual property, stuff in your head that you know how to do. Your job is to turn that into a framework or a unique mechanism of some kind so that it can be delivered more at scale. It's about codifying what you already know. So how do you do this? What's the long-term vision like? Well, it's really, really important that when you start building out your intellectual property, your unique mechanism, that you spend a period of time doing this one-to-one. This is important because whatever is in your head, whatever might have worked for you, there's no guarantee that that's going to work for other people. So we need to test it in the real world. And one-to-one is the best way to do this because we can sit opposite someone or over Zoom or whatever it may be, and we can say, do this, do that. And you can watch them do it, and you can watch the results and the questions that come back. And when you reach a certain number of people that you've helped, a certain number of questions, a certain number of examples, you end up in a place where you've got real certainty over what works and what doesn't. But you can only do this through a one-to-one approach. A lot of people make the mistake of kind of having this expertise and then immediately going to write a book. But the problem with this is that this is something that worked for you. You don't know whether it's going to work for someone else in that same form when they pick it up. So that's why we start with one-to-one. After that, then we move to a group setting. And the idea here is, okay, we've got our expertise and we've proven that we can help someone else do it by teaching them one-to-one. We should now have an idea of what the core systems or pillars of this approach are. And if we know this, and we think that our systems or the pillars of our approach, our mechanism works, then we should be able to do this one-to-many. We should be able to sit down with a group of people. Maybe it's 10 people, maybe it's 20 people. And in a group setting, we should be able to explain how things work. Those individuals should then be able to go off and apply it without so much direct one-to-one support from you and still get results. That's what we're looking for. It may or may not work. Things might break down. If they do, that's a great learning opportunity. So from there, we can then start to refine the method. But we're doing it based on incremental steps out into the wild where people are going to be consuming your stuff without any contact with you whatsoever. So the big benefit of the group format is that you are able to still get feedback from people. Now, once we have done it in a group format, then we want to move towards either a course, a pre-recorded course, or a cohort of some kind where we can reliably say, this is the information, it's gonna work, go off and consume it. Now these two things are slightly different. So in the course format, that's typically pre-recorded. And so here you need the information to be solid because they're not gonna get feedback from you. And in a cohort scenario, what we want to do here is step back ourselves and let an instructor or a coach or a team of instructors and coaches then come in and deliver that. Okay, for example, at my language learning company, I started off originally by, I was a language teacher for many years in Japan and the Middle East. And then I started helping people one-to-one, and we ran some group programs. But then eventually we decided that we wanted to offer what we call our story learning VIP coaching. So this is for people that want to make rapid progress very quickly with languages over a period of just 10 weeks. So we run 10-week cohorts, but it's not me delivering that. The curriculum, the core of what we do is the story learning method. It's the method that I spent over a decade developing. But because I know it's so effective, because so many people have studied with it and we know it works, I'm now able to bring in coaches, outside language coaches, who can help students apply that method. And I know from a distance that it's going to get results. Okay, so we've moved from helping people one-to-one, so we get direct feedback, the group setting, where we are kind of now us one-to-many, to a scenario where now we make courses and cohorts where people are either ingesting the information by themselves or they're doing it with someone else in a more intensive format. And at each step of the way, we are looking to pressure test that. Only once you've done all of these things can you think about the book. Deep down, we've all got a book inside us. I understand that, and it's awesome. And you're going to write that book. But which version of your book do you think is going to be most impactful? Is it you coming fresh out of your full-time job with a bunch of ideas and saying, I'm going to write a book? Or is it you coming out of your job where you've learned your skill set, helping people one-to-one to figure out how your ideas work with other people, running it in a group scenario where you can see how it works with less contact, running it in a format where you're not even involved anymore, and then you take all of that information, all the discoveries, all the things you've learned, and then you put that into a book scenario. Which version of the book do you think is going to be more impactful? Obviously, it's the second one. And once you have done the work of developing your intellectual property, your framework, your unique mechanism, and you've established it in all these different settings, then you can actually set it more in stone. So you could go and work with someone like my friend Charlotte from signatureframework.co, who will actually take your intellectual property and fashion it into a beautiful, what she calls a visual mental model. So you can now communicate your intellectual property very clearly to other people, right? And then you can take those graphics and you can put them inside this amazing book that you've just written. This is the process that you go through to take your ideas and then fashion them gradually into something that you know is going to work for everyone who comes into contact with it in the real world. And if all of this stuff sounds interesting, you might like to read my case study. It's completely free. It's called Anatomy of a $10 Million Online Education Business. And inside this, it's kind of long. It describes how my business story learning works, and it shows how I was able to, the kind of journey of building up my intellectual property around language learning, creating a whole company out of it and stepping back entirely from that business. I'll put a link in the description so you can check that out if you would like to. Now, recently, I've gone through this whole process myself. Well, I should say I'm in the middle of going through it. And I'm doing that in this in the business brand here at ollyrichards.co. So I'll give you a little example of how I'm doing this so you can see how it works in the wild. I've done this so many times now, it's becoming second nature. So after 10 years of running story learning, I decided to start this business brand because I wanted to pass on what I learned by growing my own education business. And so I started a newsletter, I started blogging. Did I blog? No, I didn't. I posted on a blog. I started a newsletter, I wrote about building online education businesses, and then I started to get people contacting me saying, hey, can I work with you one-to-one in some way? And at first, I wasn't in a rush to do it, but eventually I decided that, actually, yeah, if I want to learn to do this well, I'm going to have to do this. So I started helping people one-to-one to grow their education businesses. And over the course of about 2 years, I did this and nothing else. So I was helping people one-to-one. And sure enough, what I found is that as I was helping different types of businesses, I would be learning more about the limits of my ideas, where my ideas worked, where they didn't, where I had to go off and do some research myself, learn some new skills. And after a couple of years, I thought, you know what, at this point, I've seen so many different types of businesses. I've got loads of great testimonials. I'm pretty confident with this at this point. And so what I did was I started to pivot that into a group, which is more like a mentorship experience. Now, it's hybrid, so it does still contain some elements of one-to-one. There's a one-to-one strategy session with me, for example. I'm still in there doing office hours every week where people in the group can come and ask me questions based on their strategy. But the format of delivery is one-to-many. It is me giving some input and then providing the materials that I've tested over the last 2 years of one-to-one work and the integrity of the strategy that I put together for people, for them to go off and apply that with less contact with me, with more distance. But it works because everything's been tested. Now, eventually at some point, and I haven't done this yet, I have created courses, I suppose, those are available on my website if you'd like to browse them. So I have created these courses. And I don't know whether I'm going to move to cohort. I think with my particular business model, it probably doesn't make sense. But at this point, if I wanted to run, for example, a cohort teaching consultants or authors or experts how to scale their consulting business in the way that I'm describing here, I'd have quite a lot of confidence to actually do that because, again, I've just been through that process. I've got the framework. And then, having done all this now, I am also starting to write a book, and this is not going to be out for quite some time. But I feel confident doing this because even though I wanted to write the book after spending 10 years building story learning, I decided, no, this needs more contact with reality. I need to go and test this out in the world with real people, with different types of businesses. So having done that now, I feel like I'm in a place where I can start to write a book, and it's going to be all about building and scaling online education businesses, obviously, which is going to be super fun. So that's the whole process that I went through. And if you are someone on this journey, then you're probably going to be looking at this and thinking, man, that sounds like an awful lot of work. And it is. But what a privilege to be able to spend our lives doing these things that are very, very meaningful for us. So I recommend that you do think of your journey as being one journey like this, starting off with one-to-one and then getting gradually more distance between you, up until the point where you can write this book and you know it's going to land and you know it's going to be absolutely amazing. And if you'd like to see behind the scenes of how I built this very business here through the kind of high ticket expert model, you can check out this video over here which explains how I built this whole thing in a year or so.